Welcome to another episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. I'm your host, Dr. Rady Rahban, and as always, we have a very special episode. We have a wonderful episode, particularly because I love our guest. And our guest and I have known each other now for eight plus years, which actually is fascinating because what I love about my practice is that now that I've been in practice 20 years, I do have patients that I've now known for 8, 12, 15 years. I do have patients in whom I took care of them and then their husband. I do have patients that I took care of them and now their children. And so it really is an amazing part of medicine, and I'm blessed to have that practice. And we're blessed to have you, Katy, our fantastic guest today, because we're going to be talking about a very hot topic. It was a hot topic in 2024, and it'll be a hot topic in 2025. And that topic surrounds explantation, downsizing. What do I do with my implants? I've had them in for a while. And I think it's, we did a whole segment for you and your audience. And now we're going to do the same for our audience because this is a subject that everyone's talking about. If it's not Lindsay Lohan's facelift or not, did she not, the other half is about what do we do with our implants. As a small disclaimer for those of you who are watching this episode, the reason I look the way I do is because I lasered my face on Friday. So if you're looking going, what happened to Dr. Rahban? Here you go. This is 36 hours after a laser. And we will have episodes on lasers now because we've opened up a whole wellness, med spa, laser component to our practice, and we'll chat about that. Anyway, so welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
We're always so grateful to have our patients because, not everybody wants to chat about their personal lives. And without chatting about your personal life, we really can't get deep into the weeds of what things are like for people. So we're so grateful. So let's just back up here and set the stage. You and I met, let's say 8 years ago, and tell me how old you were and what we did together.
I think I was around 27, 28, something around there. And I had gone through a lot of weight loss, weight gain. And at the time I was at a loss and I had no volume up here. And I knew I wanted to get them done. I knew I needed a lift. I knew I needed something. Obviously, I didn't know exactly what I wanted, but that's what I came in for because I missed having volume.
Right. And in addition to losing volume, which is very common,
Yeah.
people, this is first point of reference. People assume that lifts and volume and those kinds of things happen when you're older and or when you've had children. That's not true at all. I'd say 1/3 of my patients are young and have lost weight. And so, and this was way pre-Ozempic, Wegovy. This was just you ratcheting down your diet and doing things of that nature, and you lost weight. And as a result of losing weight, you had large breasts. Those large breasts sagged. Those large breasts lost volume. So then you came in and said, "Hi, Dr. Rahban, I don't like what's going on here." And you and I chatted, and we ultimately decided that you definitely needed a lift, check. And at the time, the decision was to add volume because you didn't have enough of your own breast tissue such that if I did do a lift and only a lift, you would get the upper pole fullness that I know and you knew that you wanted. So it wasn't so much that you wanted to be bigger.
Right.
It was that I want fullness, and you just didn't have enough of your own breast tissue. So we go ahead and do a lift with implant, and everything is awesome, right? Your incisions healed beautifully. You didn't have any issue with your implants, no capsular contracture. You didn't get ill. Nothing happened. You just kind of went on and lived your life.
Yeah.
And then bring us up to speed until about, when was your surgery together? 6 months ago?
Yeah, back in October around.
Yeah, so about 6 months ago, you and I did our second surgery, which we're going to chat about predominantly. But tell me what slowly happened and changed in your life.
So I guess what happened, I think my body kept changing. I think I was still, and my weight loss, weight gain, it's literally been 10 pounds up and down. Even when I came the first time,
Sure.
It was like, it wasn't
Like 50
more than
pounds,
that. Right. It was like 10 pounds up and down. And I noticed that things were just starting to get heavy again, and they just felt big again. It seemed like out of nowhere. Maybe in the past year before I came in, I was like, they seem really full and big. And they were just sagging again. I guess over time, gravity happens.
Sure.
And so I knew that I really wanted them smaller. I felt like the way that I was dressing was different. And, volume wasn't really something that I was trying to have anymore.
Sure.
But in addition to that, I just think things changed, weight fluctuated. They may have gotten bigger on their own. I think that probably happens to a lot of people too. But I knew, I was like in my head, I was like, I just want it gone. Like at that point, I didn't really care what it was to get there. In my head, I was like, just take them out. I want them gone.
Got it.
I'll be happy once that happens.
So you reached out to us and you said, hey guys, how you doing? Great. Oh my God, how you? Good. Katy, great. My lifestyle's changed. I'm over it. They're way too big. I want them out. And I've heard that now 1,000 times, right? In the last 2 years, I've heard from patients, I want them out 1,000 times. And of those 1,000 patients who said, I want them out, maybe a fraction of them actually we ended up taking them out because that I want them out is an emotional knee-jerk response. And while it's totally acceptable, it requires dialogue. Right? You don't just go, hey, I want a mastectomy. Hey, I want to shave my hair off. Like those are bold moves. So we need to talk about it. And so you had said to me that they're just big. And my lifestyle's changed. So that's the first thing that we need to discuss. Your hairstyle, your breasts, the way you, the car you drive, the food you eat, it changes. And every decade, you're a different version of yourself. So it's not crazy to think that in your 20s, you liked a certain look. And in your mid to late 30s, you like a different look. You're now more stylish and more into clothes. And when you're into stylish and more into clothes, you tend to want to, there's certain dresses and ways you dress that aren't always as conducive with fuller breasts. Secondly, you happen to be one of those people that if you gain 10 pounds, which is nothing, you gain it in your breast. And I know, because we have your photos, that from when we did your surgery till now, your breasts are bigger. So your implants didn't get bigger. Your implants are the same implants they were. So what got bigger? Your breasts. So in addition to you changing, like, oh, I just don't dig this hair color anymore, your breasts actually got bigger. So those things combined were the reason you were kind of like, I'm over it. So you called, you said and Sally's like, oh, Katy wants to come back. She wants her implants. I'm like, yeah. Just have her come in. We need to talk. So you came in and you were like, hell set on, I want these implants out. I'm over it. Take them out. I see it online all day long. There are women who are posting their journeys and, championing this idea of removing implants. In so many ways, it sounds right. Number one, they're implants or foreign devices. Number two, maintenance. I have to deal with this shit and blah, 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 blah. So you came in and you wanted an explant and then you said, okay, and then just reconstruct them. Just fix them after you do that. That's the other part I love. People just go, take them out and just fix them without the implant. And I said, well, what do you mean? You're like, I don't know, I've read you can do a lift and just put some fat in.
Oh, the fat transfer.
Yeah, that part. Yeah. Just take out the implants and whatever volume comes out, if you need some, just add some fat. And so that right now is the hottest thing, second to facelifts in younger people, is explant fat transfer reconstruction. So I examined you and I said to you that in your case, with your anatomy, I think that's ill-advised. And you were a little bit bummed out.
Yeah.
You're like, well, what do you mean? I want them out. I said, you can have them out, but I need you to understand something before we go ahead and remove them. And what is it that I need to understand is that with your anatomy, wider breasts, not that much breast tissue, when I remove the implant, in the trash can it goes, and I lift your breast, you were likely to have a major deficiency, that is concavity, that is emptiness in your chest, that I don't think you are anticipating and or understand. That was number one. But why? My friend did it and she was good. Your friend has a different anatomy. And we were just talking about that before we started this episode, that you're like, I didn't really understand that. So the key element about a woman's anatomy that's critical, that no doctor can change, it can never, ever be changed, is the width of your breast, which then leads to the width of your chest. And as tiny as you are, for your frame, your chest is a little bit wider. Not good, not bad, nothing wrong with it, just is. So that means that your breasts are wider, and so when you fill them, if you don't fill them, they will just be flat and square. Okay. Now, when women come into me and they're not feeling well, I don't feel well. What's the matter? I don't know. I just feel achy. My muscles ache. I'm losing hair. I feel just run down. Those would be sort of symptoms of a condition that we are now just globally calling BII, breast implant illness. That's a whole different dialogue, right? My sister had breast cancer. We didn't give a shit what her breast looked like. Out goes the breast, like boom. And she did whatever reconstruction was available and she's lived happily ever after. Are her breasts attractive? No. I know because I've helped revise them and they're unattractive. But she's alive. And when it's a health-related issue, of course it goes vanity is secondary to health. But I ask you full point blank, have you had any issues? Had you had any issues with your breast?
No.
No. Did you feel ill?
No.
Were you unable to exercise out because of pain?
No.
Were they acting weird or looked ugly? No. So in your instance, and why I really wanted you to think it through, your instance was purely aesthetic and lifestyle. They're just big for my frame. So when that's the case, we want them to still look attractive. Smaller, for sure, but still attractive. And we're not going to just pull them out and call it a day. So I said that I don't think you can just remove your implant. I think for sure you can downsize it. No question. I don't think you can just pull them out and just lift your breast and call it a day. Then that kind of segued us into, okay, but why can't you just do fat transfer? You know, a really common thing is to take the implant out. Let's say the implant was a 200. I'm making it up. And at least put 100 back of fat. And I told you,
No.
no. This guy, just everything I asked for, he's just such a party pooper. I said, no, in that I said, this is the problem I have with large volume fat transfer. What does that mean? When I borrow fat from your body and stick it in your butt, it's large volume, lots of it. When I borrow fat from your body and stick it in your breast, it's large volume. When I borrow fat and stick it in your face, it's small volume. Like breast and butt, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of cc's. Face, we're talking 10 cc's. So the reason why I don't like fat transfer large volume, me personally, that's not Dr. Smith or Dr. Johnson or Dr. whoever, is that you have to steal from Paul to pay Peter. I have to lipo your arms, lipo your belly, lipo your love handles, lipo your inner thighs, lipo your outer thighs, lipo your upper back, lipo your bra fat. Okay, and that so far sounds like a dream. Take all that fat, spin it, prep it, get it ready, and inject it in your breast. The issue is when you do that and you are aggressive in removing the fat from all those places I mentioned, you will, and I want you to listen, and I don't care what anyone tells you, it's a damn lie, you will have some irregularities, some loose skin, some dents and divots. I will repeat it. When you remove large volumes of fat from any given area, 90%, not 100, 90% of people will have some loose skin, some irregularities, dents and divots. When does that happen? 18 months, 24 months, not immediately. I've posted 1,000 times about this and I've had 1,000 comments and they usually go, oh my God, I wish someone had told me this. I agree with you. Oh my God, that was the worst thing ever. And then you have like, for every 10 of those, you have a, that's a lie. I did mine and it looks amazing. And then I have a bunch of doctors who troll my site and they're like, this is irresponsible because their whole lifestyle is fat transferring people. So all I wanted you to know, and why was I concerned with you? Because while you're in great shape and you've never had kids and you look beautiful, you have soft skin. Your abdomen has a little bit of fat in it that is arguably stubborn. But I know that if I lipo your abdomen, give it 2 years, that abdomen will be flatter, but looser.
I'm so glad I didn't do that, by the way.
And I personally, I think that looks ugly. I find a woman who's a little fuller, but tight, way more attractive than a skinny woman with loose skin. Call it my aesthetic. And I wasn't okay with that. I wasn't okay with spiting your body in favor of your breast. Now, we do all that shit. We do it. You say, I don't care, Dr. Rahban, and we put it in your breast. And like, 50% of it absorbs. So you may do all that and still not have a win in your breast. Let's say if you did it and your breast looks stunning and the rest of your body looks you'd say, well, I don't care. My breasts are the only thing that matter to me. But in many instances, you do all that and a decent amount of the breast fat goes away. So I said to you, given your anatomy and given what I know, the only thing I suggest to you is definitely downsizing and definitely redoing your lift, but not explanting and definitely not fat transferring and your body. So how did that all go?
I mean, it was great. I think at the time, I had to really think about what my breasts looked like before the first time we did it.
Yeah.
Because that would be probably closer if I got it explanted, what it would look like. And at the time, it was hard for me to think that because they were so big.
Right, but you do know that, but you do know that this idea that if whatever you were, you would not have looked like that because you've had an implant in, it's stretched out the skin, it's caused some atrophy in certain areas, but understandable.
But like baseline, I remember being like this before the very first time. So that was really helpful. And now I didn't understand either how much we could downsize and how big of an impact that could be.
I think one of the things you were grappling with is that, you're very socially dialed in, right? You have a social network. You know a lot of women who are in this space. And so you were getting a lot of information from a lot of sources. So here you go to your trusted doctor, the person you trust. He's telling you X, yet maybe a lot of the people that you're communicating with, albeit not doctors, are telling you Y. And that's a very difficult thing to absorb because my understanding was that you had other people telling you, take them out. Like, what was it that you were hearing outside from me?
Outside from you and outside from like my personal network was, I think I was looking up success stories of explants. So I was seeing everybody that was really happy or people that did fat transfers and they loved it and it worked really well for them. So I didn't understand why I couldn't have that or why maybe that wouldn't be the best option for me.
That's a very well put. So I can show you right now 15 rhinoplasties results that are unbelievable. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that your nose will turn out that way. Yeah. Your nose may not be a good candidate for rhinoplasty. So me showing you great examples of noses, yet your nose not being a good candidate is not meaningful. Mm-hmm. And so you came in. I've done hundreds of explants. No fat transfer. Home run. I'm talking look like two breast dogs. Full, tight, amazing, zero fat, zero implant. They had the anatomy that was conducive to that surgery. And yours just wasn't that case. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's the key is that for you to have a dialogue. I'm not dogmatic that you shouldn't have an explant. On the contrary, I do cases where people come in for revisions and they're hearing like, I'm getting older and they're too big, so I just want to downsize. And I am the one that suggests to them, I say to them, if during surgery I can remove your implant and I think it looks okay, would you be open to having them removed? And they're like, you can do that? Yeah, I could potentially remove your implant. And I even said that to you. Yeah. I said, I will go in, Katy, and I will try. And I might be shocked or surprised. I literally take out the implant while you're asleep. I temporarily do the lift with staples. I sit you up and I look. And every once in a while, I'm like, what do you know? They look okay. But I knew you wouldn't. Yeah. So I did it anyways, and you came out. And what we ultimately agreed to, and what I think was wonderful, it took a moment, though. We had probably 3 conversations, one of which you left crying.
Right.
So I want everybody to hear that.
Sobbing.
You left my office sobbing because you had this notion or this desire to get something done. It was really important for you, and you really wholeheartedly felt it was what you wanted to do. And here by the way, you could have gone to anybody else. They would have done whatever you wanted them to do. But you at the time were like, no, this is my guy. And you were really bummed out. And you were actually really having this come to Jesus moment about, what if I do it and I put another implant in and it's not small enough and I did this for nothing and I regret it, and so this idea that you just come to my office and you just agree with everything I say and you just do it is not true.
Right.
Some patients come in, whatever you say, Dr. Rahban, I'm down, and some patients need a moment.
Yeah.
they got to process it. They got to go back home. They got to absorb it. They got to re-research it. And you know my style. We don't want to operate on you until you're ready. And if you need to come back and have a conversation, then you need to come back and have a conversation. I'm not changing as a result of your unwillingness to do what I think is right. In other words, let's say you came back and Sally said to me, I don't know, Katy, I don't think she's going to book. What if I just caved? I was like, fuck it, we'll just tell her to come in. We'll do whatever she wants. Yeah. Like, why should I, like, what's in it for me? What's in it for me is I should just do whatever the hell you want. Because then I'm booking surgeries, I'm executing the surgeries, I hold you accountable, you have to eat it, because at the end of the day, I did whatever you asked me to. But that's not what you would do for your child. You wouldn't do whatever the hell your child wants. And so I am proud of you, because even though you went through a very like, I don't know, shit, that's not what I wanted. You stuck with it, and you eventually understood what I was saying, even though you weren't sure what it would look like, and you made that leap of faith.
Yeah.
And now you are, let's say, 6 months out. And so how did it go? Tell me that experience and the aftermath and how it's been and all that stuff. Because this was a kind of very emotional for you.
It was. I think also, too, I had a quick turnaround from when I came in for a consult and when I eventually booked my date. So I felt like, I think not doing exactly what I thought I was going to do maybe would have taken a few weeks normally, but ultimately I trusted you and I knew that that was probably going to be the right choice. And I think I knew whatever you ended up going with was probably going to be the best decision for me. I'm not going to say that I know better.
Right. No, but that's true. And I think that in some instances you defer to your surgeon. By the way, there are many people, my wife's 6 spine surgeries, where we deferred to the spine surgeon and they were wrong. So while we do intend and do our best to do the right thing, sometimes we're human. But in your instance, we did what I suggested, and now you're 6 months out. So tell me what life is like now.
Life is great. When we left the week after and got my bandages taken off, I had a zip-up hoodie on, and I had John we went out to lunch down the street, and I had him take a picture of me when I was standing up, and I was like, look how flat I am.
That was with you swollen.
And that was swollen. That was a week later. I still had, I think it was just the bra at that time. Right. But I hadn't seen myself that, like, without that much projection. And that was a really exciting moment for me. So I was like, okay, we still have an implant. We still, I think my biggest fear was that I would have an implant and it would still feel big.
Correct.
Obviously, that was, I told you, I was like, there's no such thing as too small. Like, I think before I went under, I was like, I promise you. And I think that was really exciting when I saw that. And you told me they were still swollen. I was like, how are they swollen right now? What do you mean? They're like so much smaller when I would come in for my post-op appointments. And the swelling has gone down even more. And I think the recovery process is so much different from downsizing than
100% than the first surgery.
Augmentation, because at first they're like these, fluffy things, and they eventually just kind of settle down a little bit. But there's like things are just different.
Right. And I'll highlight the distinctions between the first and secondary. And then how is it like you were doing this so that you could, what I was hoping for is you could have your cake and eat it. Mm-hmm. What we were hoping is that on one end, you could accomplish what you wanted, which is I want to feel free of my breasts.
Yes.
I felt that my breasts were, if you will, ahead of me, and that everything I did revolved around them. So I would dress accordingly, and then I wouldn't stand as straight because I didn't want that fullness, etc. So we wanted you to have that freedom. At the same time, we wanted your breasts to still be pretty. And so do you think we accomplished both?
For sure. I know I was saying earlier, but I wore a triangle bralette to a workout class, which I've never, ever done before. And because normally things I would spill out of everything. Sure. My bras, I would spill out of the top. I would just spill out of everything. And nothing fell out. Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Normally if I bend over at anything, they would just like pop right out because it was just full everywhere.
Right.
So that was really exciting. And I think I just started working out again like a month ago. I really took the time off very seriously.
Yeah. You said 6 weeks. I wanted to be sure, so I took 6 months.
I took 3 full months off. But I started working out again, and I feel great. I'm excited to start running again. I haven't done that yet,
I think you'll see the greatest impact, not just in the clothes you wear, but in the freedom during exercise.
Yeah.
The number one place that women complain about large breasts, aside from I can't wear what I want to wear, is being burdened during exercise, running, yoga, whatever. So you'll see that massive improvement in the freedom to be. One thing you said to me, which is interesting, is you didn't buy any new bras.
No.
So here we are. I want you to listen carefully. This is so poignant. You, in your mind, see your breasts as significantly smaller, allowing you to do everything you wanted to, yet dimensionally, they're still the same width.
Yeah.
So that underscores everything I said to you,
Right.
which is no matter what I do, even if I do a mastectomy, you will still be X wide because that's your chest.
Yeah.
And so the difference is you're wearing the same bra, except you're just not pouring out of it. And I think you said best. You're like, I just couldn't visualize this.
Right. Yeah. And because the outside of my cup goes like almost underneath my armpit. That's just the way.
That's just the way the width
I
it
am.
is. Yeah. So imagine you had no breasts; they were gone.
Yeah.
Like your breasts, what we would call the gland would still be out there.
Yeah.
So you have to fill that dimension if you want it to be spherical and not just flat and like a pancake.
Right.
So I think that was incredibly interesting that you mentioned that, and I think it underscores the whole concept, which is, we're at the mercy of what God has given us. We're going to make the best version of it.
Yeah, and that's just with underwire. If I would do bralettes most of the time, I think I could probably size down.
You could, because that's just circumferentially just grabbing you.
Exactly, yeah. But now it's like, now it just looks a lot better. I feel so much better.
Yes, that's great. And something that was interesting, which we discussed a lot during your interview with me, was, so here everyone assumes that I'm super anti-lipo, and everyone assumes I'm super anti-fat transfer, right? This guy just, he hates it, so he's on the pulpit just knocking it down. And here are thousands and thousands of patients who swear and love liposuction and fat transfer. How's that possible? It's not that I hate it, I'm more selective about it. So the first time you came to see me, back in the day, you came for your breasts and you asked me to liposuction your abdomen, right?
Yeah.
I
came for my breasts, and then maybe like 2 years later I came back.
You came back and you said, hey, Dr. Rahban, I'm working out my ass. I just can't get rid of this little soft skin, the fat on my belly. It's not much, it's tiny, but like a normal woman who's striving for a very good physique. And I told you at the time, back then, before anything else, I said what?
No.
I said, no.
Not a good idea.
Bad idea. What do you mean it's a bad idea? Everyone's getting liposuction.
Yeah.
I think that you will get some kind of loose skin. Dr. Rahban has done 150 tummy tucks on 20-year-old girls who've never had children, who've never had weight loss, and the only thing they did was liposuction their abdomen. Tummy tucks on girls who have only done liposuction of their abdomen and after 2 to 3 years had loose skin. So, I mean, to the point that I had to cut it out. So I thought, I examined you, I'm like, you have beautiful skin, but it's not thick. For example, there are some Asian patients, really thick skin. Some Latinos, really thick skin. They might get away with it. So that was that. Then you came to me and you're like, hey, Dr. Rahban, it's been several years. I want to downsize my breasts. I want fat transfer to my breasts. And I said, no. Okay, so that's 2 no's. And then I'm actually shocked that you asked me. It was funny. I assumed you would ask me, but you're like, now that I'm downsizing and I've decided to do everything, I have the tiniest amount of fullness in my hip. And then I have a dip next to it, aka hip dips. So common in women. And will you liposuction that? Can you fix it? And I'm like, sure.
Honestly, I'm surprised I asked you too. I think at that point I was so like, you said no so many times that I was
I'm actually shocked and I'm impressed and I'm happy you did, because I didn't even hesitate. It wasn't like, well, you'd have to twist my arm. I was just like...
It's very casual, yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Really? Really? Yeah, no problem. Why? Because that's a totally different indication. So here is the difference. When you ask me to liposuction your hip in a small amount, 2 things are different. 1, that skin is tight. Your skin on your hip is tight. It is not the skin on your belly that's loose. or the skin on your inner thighs that are loose. So number one, it's a better area. Check. Number two, it is a small amount. It is like the difference between being an assassin, shooting a rifle as a sniper versus shooting a cannon. They're completely different. You're asking me to come in there and artfully sculpt down a little area. Awesome. And then you said, while you're there, Kit, and I said, at the time, whatever I remove, it's gonna go in the trash. I have no problem prepping it and sticking it in the dip. And I said, it won't correct it, but it will improve it. If you want it corrected, the dip, I need to now go elsewhere. Now I gotta start going places that are not indicated and get more. So your hip dip needed 10, and out of your hip, I got 4. You want the other 6? I gotta go get it. Are you ready for your arms to be loose? Where do you want loose? And so you said very intelligently, I'm game. If you can bring down my hips and fill in the dips a little bit, both, by the way, both of them help, right? One is going down and one is filling. I'll have a little bit of a curvier look rather than a little bit of a squared out look. And I think that'll make me happy. And I said, okay, yeah, sure, I'll do it for you. No hesitation, no problem. How'd that go?
For me?
Yeah.
I can't even tell you. It's changed every day.
Isn't that just shocking?
Yeah. I am really happy you did it. But it's like getting dressed every day, it's like completely different night and day. Even though I don't think anybody that knows me would notice.
Nobody does.
It's literally just for me.
No, but that's the whole point.
Yeah.
All of this is for you.
Right.
It's how you see your physique
Yeah.
and how you see your body. And was it, oh my God, do you have this? You know, I remember all your followers are like, girl, show me your BBL. Show me your butt. I can't wait to see your big ass. You're like, no, guys, you don't seem to understand. There ain't no BBL going on here. This was like, this was like a tiny amount in my hip. This is nothing going in my butt. But it was funny because everyone got so excited for you. It's such a fan club.
They were like, oh, so you got a skinny BBL. And I was like, oh,
yeah, really skinny.
No, it was a huge difference for me. It's like, it's made a big impact, even though it was very, very subtle.
And I again, all of this, I give you credit. I can do all I want as your provider, but you as the patient have to A, receive it, B, understand it, and C, follow through. So, you know, very easily, you could have come here. You're not my sister. You could have come and say, hey, Dr. Rahban, I want to do X, Y, and Z, and be like, he's not going to do what I need him to do. So there are 1,000 providers between where you live and here, and you would have just gone somewhere else. And sure enough, guaranteed there'd be 10 people who would have done everything that you needed to do. Whether you would have been happy, I don't know. But I commend you for not allowing what you had in your mind to skew you from what I think was the right thing to do. Because it you know, we're in a I want what I want world. Right?
Yeah.
If you can't give me what I want, I'll go elsewhere and get it.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely didn't want anything. I've never wanted anything unrealistic for me. And even if it takes me a little bit longer to get there.
Yeah, no, but I'm just giving you a lot of credit because
yeah.
you followed through correctly. And you were, while you were a little bit disappointed, you weren't fully discouraged. And at the end, you are where you wanted to be. And you didn't have to lose your cake to eat it. In other words, now you have both win-win. You have smaller breasts, you fit into clothes, you can go wherever you want to do, you can exercise at the same time. I think you still feel feminine and there's some volume there. You got a little bit of a improvement in your curvature and you lived your life and no headache. Now, a small segment real quick in terms of recovery, you mentioned that. The two are completely polar different.
Way different. Yeah.
The first surgery is more traumatic. You are a completely organic virgin chest. No one's ever operated. When we do the breast augmentation portion, we are finding the pocket under the muscle and we create that space and we separate the muscle from the chest wall. It's surgical and there is discomfort associated with that, pressure associated with that. Furthermore, we're tightening up the breast and that combination creates a very swollen, torpedo, high riding, as you said, fluff, just really engorged environment. It's not terribly painful, but certainly it looks significant and there's a tightness associated with it. You were fully healed, everything was fine. And when you take out an implant and put a smaller one in or explant, there's no pain. You're in the pocket. It's already been created. And the lift already was a minor, tiny lift. You didn't have that much sag. and there's really no pain associated with it. So, and there's much less swelling. So it's night and day experience in terms of pain, swelling, recovery. You know, you went from 100 swelling to like a 10 with your breast first case, and you went here from a 14 to a 10. It's a much smaller delta. So the experience in terms of recovery and whatnot is should be and ought to be much less.
Yeah, it was definitely way different. It was a breeze this time around. It seemed like
It is. You're an expert. Yeah, I mean, that covers, I think, A to Z of explantation. And I like that your journey, I like your journey was one that wasn't so straightforward. You struggled with it, and that allowed us to do a little bit of a banter. And I think that allows, you know, you are representative of a lot of people right now. I divide people into 3 categories. I divide them that people who are in the BII category, they don't feel well. They really feel like these implants are causing them poor health. That's one category. It's pretty straightforward. Something's causing me to be not well. There's no way I'm going to let vanity override that. Check. There are individuals who have absolutely no issue with their implants. They just want to replace them. Check. And then there was you that was somewhere in the middle there. And naturally, those are the people that have to really sort of walk through it. Yeah. You cannot do this without an exam. This isn't one of those things that you can just talk to your, because, you know, literally the next patient after you, I'll do an explant. So I need to see you, examine you, feel the breast. How much breast tissue do you have? How big is the implant? So I think your journey is very, very, very common today. And I think when you posted it on your platforms, you got a ton of traction, right?
Yeah. I think a lot of people that do, you're so different when you're in your 20s, making decisions and everything. It's not uncommon for people in their mid-30s to be going through, do I want to explant? Do I want to downsize? What's the right choice for me?
Correct.
Mine happened to be a very emotional one. But
yes, it is emotional. Emotional for a lot of people, because at the end of the day, you know, your breasts have a lot of elements to them. There's a sense of sensuality. There's femininity. It's not just, hey, I'm going to remove a mole. So, well, we're grateful that you were transparent with your journey. And listen, you know, at the end of the day, people enjoy their anonymity. But I think without having dialogues, nobody will understand it. And you were the beneficiary of a certain amount of dialogue. And now you have been able to contribute to the next group of women who are struggling with this. So I'm sure everyone who listened to this podcast is grateful as well. Any parting suggestions, conversations, recommendations you have to people who are contemplating this?
I would say be open-minded with what your expectations are. I think something you said to me a lot that it didn't really settle into a little bit later was, where do you want to end up? Don't worry so much about how we get there. So I think I ended up where I wanted to be. It just wasn't the journey that I thought it was going to be necessarily.
Very, very well said.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that is a phenomenal episode. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, we have 2 parting requests. Number 1, if you like our show and you find it to be helpful and entertaining and whatnot, go and write something nice. Reviews help us. They help our staff and our team feel good about what they're doing, and they help our rankings. And at the end of the day, we want to get to as many listeners as possible. The second is share our podcast with people you love. You have no idea who you care about is in the midst of what journey. And by the time you find out that they had plastic surgery, it's too late. So send this podcast to everyone you know. And as always, we look forward to tuning in with you guys next week. So that's a wrap. I'm your host, Dr. Rady Rahban, and we'll see you next week on Plastic Surgery Uncensored. Bye-bye.